Welcome back to Good Day Northern Michigan. Now we're halfway through the 90-day extension of the ban on TikTok, but who's counting?
That's right. Hang in there, people. He's coming back. It recently popped up again, though, in app stores, but we still have lots of questions and uncertainty. Let's bring in our tech guru, Tim Gillen from Terrapin Networks, with another Tech Tuesday talk. Hi, Tim. How are you?
Good morning. Just fine. Thank you.
Good. Ironically, or perhaps unironically, CBS is launching a brand new soap opera this week, and it feels like TikTok is like the latest soap opera of the tech world.
So will they, won't they?
Yeah, like as the world turns here. What can you tell us about the latest news on TikTok, Tim?
Well, the federal government's obviously having some second thoughts about an actual ban or a forced sale. I think there's still a good chance that there'll be a forced sale. This is mostly about President Trump. I think my read on it is extending some time to figure out something. There's tens of millions of people in this country who like using TikTok. And the larger issue, of course, with TikTok is ByteDance, which is the home company, the company that owns TikTok, which are based in China, communist China. And as part of the laws in communist China, any company there has to have everything go through their government. So the risk is, not just the risk, the actual issue is that TikTok user data is shared with servers that are in China. And TikTok, compared to Instagram or Facebook, what have you, Twitter, doesn't take any more user data probably than either of those do, as far as what you do as a user, what sites you go to, and so forth. What your telemetry is, where your phone is located while you use it. You're using it on a phone, for example. The problem is, of course, instead of those servers being here in the States that we would have some control over, they're in China. And they've, for a while there, they played around, they being TikTok, played around with, well, our servers are actually in the States. They have some servers in the States to support the U.S. activity, but those servers are directly connected to the servers back in China. So it's the same thing.
Interesting.
I'm not a big TikTok user. I know Haley is a little bit more than I am, so to speak. When it came several years ago, my kids were on it, so I got it. I never have actually posted a single TikTok, but I did put it on my phone at one point. Does that automatically open you up to TikTok having access to potentially everything on your phone, or do you have to be an actively engaged user?
No, you don't have to be actively engaged at all. That's true for most any app that you load up. You will, if you scroll through the terms of service, the TOS or the EULA, End User License Agreement, EULA, that you scroll through as you click OK to install it, they can pretty much grab whatever they want to. You've given them permission to. So, and apps on phones are always running. I mean, they're effectively always running, even if you're not using them. So its ability to do that, and that's one of the big maybe controversies is the right word for that, is how much they do that, especially in a passive mode. They say, oh, we don't care about that, but no one really completely believes that. And I mean, Facebook and those kind of things, even Instagram, that's how they can tell you when you're walking by a Dunkin' Donuts if there's a special at Dunkin' Donuts, is because your app is always running. Right. I mean, that's how that works, which is both a feature and to a lot of us more of a bug. From what you just mentioned, Bill, more of a bug. But that's one of the reasons people like it.
Now, do you see in, I guess, recent months, since everyone's kind of been, I guess, more aware of their passive data being taken someplace else, people having more questions about that? Because it's really, I guess, like you said, every app is people now more concerned, do you feel, with where their data is actually going more so than the past?
People say they're more concerned, but it doesn't seem to change a whole lot of activity.
True.
Very true.
I mean, see, these apps are by design very convenient. And I mean, that's the whole point of it. And as we say in technology, usually, really always, convenience equals less security. More security and less convenience, it's almost a zero sum. One goes up, the other one has to go down. And keep in mind, the standard thing we say, we've said it on the segment before, if the product is free, you are the product. So you are telling ByteDance, TikTok, Facebook, Instagram, you're happy to have my stuff as long as I can use your stuff. Let's make a trade. You give it to me for free, I'll give you my stuff for free. That's what we're actually doing. We don't think of it always that way, but that's what we are doing. Now, it's not always bad. There's no doubt. There's a lot of great utility besides just good entertainment utility. There's lots of terrific stuff on TikTok.
Yeah.
I mean, besides, there's not all 14-year-olds dancing, which some of that could be entertaining to some folks too, especially if you're 14. But there's a lot of really, there's good content on TikTok, good content on Instagram, good content, I mean, genuinely good content. But the problem is, or what we see as the problem, what this talk about with the case of TikTok, is these apps are built around selling advertising data. And the only way they can sell that is to know your interests so that they can sell you advertising data. Now, and one last thing to always keep in mind, TikTok is not allowed in China. There's no 15-year-old in China who gets to use TikTok. So that's kind of an important consideration for us to think about. I mean, it's something. What it means, I guess that's a whole different discussion. But that's the reality. They don't allow it. Is it because it's so poisonous, or is it because they want more control? That's always the big question, I guess. But TikTok has had some bad stuff on it, just like Facebook and all these social media apps do.
Sure.
Lots of good utility to them. There's no doubt about it. Lots of really quality content that people put on these apps, including
Tim,
TikTok.
We've only got a minute left, so I'll try to get 2 more questions in if time allows.
Okay.
But when this came up last year, I mean, one of the talks was, why are we targeting TikTok? There's so many other issues out there. The recent AI with the app connected to China is another one of those. If there's anything good that comes out of it, do you think this will spur more discussion or even legislative action on just security in general, for regardless of who owns it? That seems to be really the bigger end game than just focusing on TikTok.
Yeah.
I think that's a very good point. And yes, I think it will. People are thinking about this in different ways. I'm sure lots of folks are like, what's the big deal with TikTok? I just look at dance videos. What's the big deal? And then they start seeing whether it's mainstream media, you guys, a morning show, CBS News, NBC, whatever it might be, start realizing, okay, wait a second, there's maybe a little more going on here in the background. These companies, TikTok wants this on the they don't want people talking about it, because people do start to think, okay, wait a second, maybe I don't need this. So I think it's good that way. I like the fact it's all up there. On the legislation side, it's hard to say, because I'm not sure that the federal government would be the people who would be the best at actually deciding what's best here, only because on the technology side, not only because, but partly because, largely because, on the technology side, they're way behind the curve. They always are.
Tim,
it's a slow-moving thing, so that's why.
All right, super short answer because we are out of time, but I have to ask, do you personally have TikTok, and would you recommend like a separate phone or a separate iPad device just for games and apps, completely separate from all your other confidential information?
Well, first off, to answer your question, no, I don't use TikTok, although I get pointed to it sometimes off of X, which I do infrequently use, but I do use it. So sometimes I'm on TikTok because of that. But what you brought up about having a separate device is actually something people are starting to do. And there's some utility to that too. That can make a lot of sense.
Awesome. Well, I'm sure we'll talk about that again in the future with you, Tim. We have it on every couple of weeks for
second half of the
Tech Tuesday. Exactly. Tim Gillen from Terrapin Networks, Traverse City. Thank you, sir, for being with us.
Thanks. Nice seeing everybody.
Thank you.